Historical connect epidemic and national security. Historically, epidemic infection have affected national security in various wars and various instances such as first, various scholars argue that Germany loss in World War One was least partly due to negative effects of 1918 influenza epidemic. Second, in World War II, similar malaria caused more US casualties in certain areas than did by military action. More recently, AIDS outbreak marked the first time that the UN Security Council acknowledged the threat that epidemic pose and consequently recommend to expand the definition of national security. So, is India treating COVID 19 as a national security threat? The national security matters in India are dealt with National Security Act of 1980, but COVID 19 is being dealt by two laws, namely Epidemic Disease Act 1897 and Disaster Management Act 2005. In that sense, COVID 19 is not being treated as a national security threat in legal terms as of now. Then, Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. So, in this, Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons for the first time explicitly banned Syria for toxic attacks. More on news. OPCW's Investigation and Identification Team in its report said that Syrian Arab Air Force used the nerve gas sarin and chlorine three times in Latamin, Syria in 2017. IIT was established in 2018 for identifying the preparators of the use of chemical weapons in Syrian Arab Republic. Until then, OPCW had only been authorized to say whether chemical attacks occurred, not who perpetrated them. About OPCW, it is the implementing body of the Chemical Weapons Convention. Headquarters are in Hague, Netherlands. Convention on the Prohibition of Development and Production, Stockpiling, and the Use of Chemical Weapons. On their destruction, the Chemical Weapons Convention (CWC) entered into force on 29 April 1997. CWC aims to eliminate an entire category of weapons of mass destruction by prohibiting the development, production, acquisition, stockpiling, retention, and transfer and use of chemical weapons by the state parties. To achieve the goal of preventing chemistry from ever again being used as warfare, CWC has four provisions. First, destroying all existing chemical weapons under international verification by OPCW. Second, monitoring chemical industry to prevent chemical weapons from re-emerging. Third, providing assistance and protection to the state parties against chemical threats. And fourth, fostering international cooperation to strengthen implementation of the convention and promote the peaceful use of chemistry. CWC was signed and ratified by 193 countries, including India. First, Israel has signed but not ratified the configuration, and non signatory countries are Egypt, North Korea, and South Sudan. 98% of global population live under the protection of convention. 97% of the chemical weapon stockpiles declared by possessor state have been verifiably destroyed. CWC incorporated challenge inspection, whereby an state party in doubt about another state party's compliance can request a surprise inspection. OPCW was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2013 for its extensive efforts to eliminate chemical weapons. About sarin. Sarin is a clear, colorless, tasteless liquid that has no odor in its pure form. However, sarin can evaporate into vapor, that is gas, and spread into the environment. It is a human-made chemical warfare agent classified as nerve agent. Sarin originally was developed in 1938 in Germany as a pesticide, which is also known as GB. About chlorine gas, it appears to be yellow in color. It does sink and displace breathable air into an asphyxiate people. So it can asphyxiate people. How nerve agent works. All nerve agent cause their toxic effects by preventing the proper operation of an organism enzyme that act as a body switch off for glands and muscles. Without an switch off, the glands and the muscles are constantly being stimulated. Exposed people may become tired and no longer be able to keep breathing. Next, we are going to talk about environment. In environment, we are going to talk about COVID-19 and disaster management. So, why it is in news? Because countrywide spread of COVID-19 had led to the discussion about better ways to tackle similar nature of disaster. COVID 19 and disaster management a perspective. COVID 19 is a first pan India biological disaster being handled by legal and constitutional institutions of the country. It is for the first time that a pandemic has been recognized as a notified disaster in the country by Ministry of Home Affairs. Subsequently, the Disaster Management Act has also been invoked for the first time in India to effectively manage this crisis. The current lockdown has been imposed under DM Act 2005. Issues with current framework of the COVID-19 disaster management. In the current use of DM Act in tackling COVID-19, two crucial aspects stand out. First, lack of an appropriate legal framework to manage epidemics, and second, an over centralization of powers. DM Act was meant to be used in a situation where a state government was unable on its own to cope with the result of a natural disaster. It was never meant to be a legal mechanism to control the otherwise functional state governments. Taking a cue from the central guidelines on lockdown, state governments and authorities exercised powers under Epidemics Disease Act 1897 to issue further directions. This led to the confusion among the masses, especially the vulnerable population, migrant slum dwellers, etc. A top-down approach seems to have been adopted by central government. It leaves state with no maneuvering space that could be used to design and enforce lockdowns, keeping cultural and social norms in mind. Moreover, mostly the management of health crisis has become an issue in law and order. Major notification and guidelines relating to COVID-19 are being issued by Ministry of Home Affairs and not Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The language used is still one of law and order, lockdown, curfew, fines and surveillance. Also, DM Act is not suitable to deal with fake news, false warning being spread through social media and internet as it was passed in 2005. And then social media had not been an accessible or available as it is of now. Section 54 of DM Act makes it punishable offense to circulate false alarm or warning about a disaster or its severity or magnitude. DM Act imposes criminal liabilities for violations of lockdown orders. This provision makes it poor vehicle for the conduct of economic policy on nationwide scale. The DM Act was never intended to be a keep economic law. Also, it is considerable discretion with officials all across the country in deciding who to permit, who to ban. A consolidated proactive policy approach is absent. In fact, there has been ad hoc and reactive rulemaking as seen in ways of migrant workers have been treated. Migrant issues has also exposed the lack of coordination between union and state governments, learning from the present management of COVID-19 disaster. First is the information management. As the news about the virus is spread across the world become a center stage. There has been a deluge of information, misinformation, and analysis in the media, more so in the social media. This has heightened the anxiety. Disaster management in the internet age will need to factor in the reality social media and global connectivity. Inclusion of restriction and refrain in disaster management strategy. So far, focus of disaster management has been primarily on what one must do to abate a crisis. Accordingly, the emphasis has been on 3 R's of disaster management, that is, rescue, relief, and recovery. However, there is a need to give due prominence to what one must not do to effectively mitigate a calamity. Hence, there is a need to incorporate 2 more R's in disaster management, that is, restriction and refrain. The inclusion of restriction is necessary not only to highlight the importance of legal prohibition which exists in DM Act, but also to caution people of possible legal action which will deter them from spreading fake news. Apart from legal actions, it is also necessary to instill a culture of refrain false warnings at community level. Accordingly, aside from imposing regulations to curb the fake news, people must train to realize the authenticity of the news. Then the ground level implementation and federalism. Contrary to the centralized structure of DM Act, India disaster response must be quite decentralized. Varied capacity of different state necessitates a lot more agile and differential approach of disaster management. Disaster in national magnitude necessitates a close administrative and political coordination led by center and followed by state governments, disaster management authorities, district administration and local self-government and the other stakeholders. In the true spirit of DM Act and federal structure, national and state political and administrative agencies should be more collaborative and consultative. Rule of courts. In times such as these, constitutional courts must play its role. There are complaints of discrimination, police excess, starvation, lack of medical aid, etc. for various corners of the country. There is a bar on jurisdiction of court. There is no grievance redressal mechanism under DM Act. The Constitutional Court must suo motu register PILs and closely monitor the implementation of DM Act, ensure rule of law and protection of human rights as granted under the Constitution even during the disaster. What is the conclusion? So, the conclusion is COVID 19 has provided an opportunity to look into the loopholes of our disaster management strategy and relevant provisions under the DM Act. The knee jerk and the haphazard responses to current disaster are further compounded by local level conflict between different departments of same states, which end up hampering relief measures. Such issues need to be avoided and learnt from to make the disaster management policy work. Along with this, let us discuss Disaster Management Act 2005. The National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA) under DM Act is the nodal central body for coordinating disaster management with the Prime Minister as its chairperson. The NDMA lays down policies and plans and guidelines for management of disaster. Similarly, state, district, and local level disaster management authorities were established and manned by high functionaries. All these agencies are envisaged to work in coordination. NDMA so far formulated 30 guidelines on various disasters, including the Guidelines on Management of Biological Disaster 2008. The 2019 National Disaster Management Plan issued also deal extensively with the biological disaster and health emergency. This is the broad legal framework within which activities to contain COVID-19 are being carried out by union and state government. Along with this, let's move on with the next topic to the green bonds. The State Bank of India has listed green bonds worth 100 million on India's NIX and INXS Global Security Market Platform GSM. What are green bonds? So, the green bonds are debt instruments issued by financial, non financial, or public entities, which are the proceeds are earmarked for the use towards financing green projects. As per official green bonds requirement for Indian issuers, published in 2016 by Security and Exchange Board of India (SEBI), district security debt security shall be considered as green or green debt securities if funds raised are to be utilized for the assets falling under any of the following broad categories: renewable or renewable and sustainable energy, that is wind and solar, etc., clear transportation, mass transportation here, sustainable water management, climate change adaptation, energy efficiency, efficient and green buildings, sustainable waste management, recycling and waste to energy, etc., sustainable land use, including sustainable forestry and agriculture and afforestation, etc., biodiversity conservation. Advantages of green bonds. First, brings investment in renewable energy. According to Economic Survey, India needs to invest 4.5 trillion over the next 10 years to meet the targets of renewable energy and urban sustainability, over $450 billion a year. Green bonds can also be tapped for this. Sources of alternative green finance. Presently, most green projects are financed through the banks and non-bank financial companies, NBFCs, and companies' balance sheets. With rising non-performing loans and liquidity crisis facing NBFCs, suggests the necessity for alternative sources of green finance to help India transition into a low-carbon economy. At third, attracts environmental conscious investors. There is a strong demand for the green bonds, with previous issuance being oversubscribed by 2-3 times. Also, there is a global momentum building around mobilizing green finance with growing interest of foreign equity investors in India's green economy. Meeting the climate change objectives, example renewable energy, energy efficiency, and clean transportation made up 66% of all green bond commitments by the World Bank, as per World Bank Impact Report 2019 by the World Bank. Companies and government entities can enhance their reputation by branding themselves as innovative and sustainable. Green bonds can play a positive role in raising awareness and building expertise among investors on climate issues. Challenges to the green bond market in India. First, structural barriers and constraint to scale. Managing foreign exchange risk in a cost effective way in international financial transaction. Small size of certain projects makes it difficult to raise required capital. Lack of consistent green standards and monitoring mechanism to help investor identify eligible projects. Third, poor knowledge of green bond market and nascent technical capacity. Lack of information, policy clarity, lack of historical performance data, and a limited understanding of risk at various stages of investment cycle and make issuers and the investors hesitant about the green bonds. Next is minimum policy and regulatory incentive to adopt green bonds. At present, there are limited incentives for borrowers to certify that projects in as green and rise finances. Then corporate bond market in India is underdeveloped. Companies corporate bond market is mere 16% of GDP compared with 46% in Malaysia and 73% in North Korea. Off-taker risk for investors in renewable energy because of delays and non-payment of power purchased by the primary off-takers usually state-owned distribution companies, DISCOMs. Now the way forward. First, boost investors' confidence by drawing on international best practices to increase the transparency and standards. Implementation of TCFD, Task Force on Climate Related Finance Disclosures Guidelines. TCFD was set up in 2015 by Financial Stability Board to develop volunteer consistent climate related financial risk disclosures for the use of companies, banks and investors in providing information to the stakeholder. Second, build domestic support for green bonds market and increase technical capacity to further green investment. Example, sharing technical expertise among regulators and developing case studies, etc. Third is targeted policy reforms and incentives. Example, setting up a credit guarantee and enhancement cooperation fund proposed in Union Budget 2019 and 2020 to provide guarantee to bonds issued by completed projects. In August 2019, government introduced a payment security mechanism to insulate generational companies from non-payment of dues by discoms, shrink structural barriers for investment like development of masala bond and foreign exchange hedging markets and collaborating with development finances institution to de-risk the transactions. In this context, let us know about India's INX. India's International Exchange Limited, India INX, is India's first international exchange located as Gujarat International Financial Finance Tech City, Gift City, operating on an advanced technological platform of Eurex T7. Exchange is the fastest in the world with a turnaround time of 4 microseconds. Launched in 2017, it is subsidiary of BSE Limited. It is Asia's first stock exchange. It was established in 1975. India's INX Global Security Market GSM. It is India's first international primary market platform that connect global investors with Indian and foreign issuers. This provides global investors an opportunity to invest in Indian securities without assuming any currency risk and in the regulatory regime comparable with any other leading jurisdiction. Next, we have green bond scenario in India. India's first green bond was issued by Yes Bank Limited in 2015. In 2016, India became second country after China to provide national level guidelines for green bonds issued by SEBI. According to 2019 and 2020 economic survey, India has the second largest green bonds market among the emerging economies after China. India had issued 10.2 billion of green bonds in the first half of 2019. India first listed green bond on India INX issued by Indian Railway Finance Corporation FICCI and the Climate Bond Initiative established the Indian Green Bonds Council in 2016, having representation from banking, finance, insurance, public and private sector, etc., to propose solution towards the development of green bonds market in India. CBI is an international organization working to mobilize bond market for Climate change solutions. Thereof, we are on the next topic that Supreme Court relaxes BS4 deadline. Supreme Court extended March 31st, 2020 deadline for sale and registration of BS4 emissions norm compliant vehicles. Evolution of emission norms. The first stage of mass emission norms came into force for petrol vehicles in 1991 and in 1992 for diesel vehicles. In 2000, passengers cars and commercial vehicles were made duo Euro 1 equivalent India 2000 norms. By 2001, Bharat Stage 2 norms based on Euro 2 emission norms were brought into force. Bharat stage norms are a standard set up by Central Population Control Board under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to regulate the output of air pollutants from industrial combustion engines including motor vehicles. The exhaust gases now covered under the norms are carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, oxides of nitrogen and particulated matter. These norms are based on European standards. The first Auto Fuel Policy 2003 laid down for further adoption of Bharat Stage 3 norms. Later Bharat Stage 4 norms were implemented in April 2010 onwards. The roadmap of proposed draft Auto Fuel Policy 2025 envisaged implementation of BS4 norms across the country by April 2017 in a phased manner. BS5 emission norms in 2020-2021 and BS4 from 2022. However, due to drastic rise in air pollution especially in Delhi and other parts of North India, the Centre in 2016 announced that India would skip the BS5 norms altogether and adopt BS6 norms by 2020, shifting from BS4 norms. Further in 2018, Supreme Court had ruled that no BS4 vehicle would be sold or registered in India from April 1, 2020. It ruled that any extension of time is introducing and new emission norms would adversely impact the health of citizens as the pollution has reached an alarming and critical situation. However, recently Supreme Court extended the deadline because of extraordinary situation arising out of the lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic. Supreme Court allowed the sale of 10% of unsold stock of BS4 vehicles within few days after the end of lockdown due to COVID-19 except in Delhi and National Capital Region. BS6 requires both automobile infrastructure as well as oil marketing companies to tweak their respective products. For optimal results, BS6 complement engines will have to ruin its BS6 fuels as new generation engines running on lower quality fuel will emit a quantum of toxic gases comparable to that generated by BS4 engines. Major standard under BS6 nitrogen oxide levels of BS6 grade diesel engines and petrol engines will be brought down by 70% to 25% respectively. BS6 would also reduce the particulate matter limit by 80% from BS4 of digital vehicles and also introduce PM limit to petrol vehicles. In addition to emission standards for new vehicles and the regulation provided specification for reference on commercial fuels. The sulfur traces in BS6 fuel is 5 times lower 10 ppm as compared to the sulfur traces in BS4 fuel 50 ppm, which is a reduction of 80%. Diesel particulated filter DPF and the selective catalytic reduction SCR are being introduced in the rollout of BS6 norms, which were not a part of BS4. Real driving emissions will be introduced in India for the first time with the implementation of Bharat Stage 6 emission norms. It will measure the vehicle's emissions in real time conditions against laboratory conditions. Onboard diagnostics OD has been made mandatory for all vehicles, which will give the vehicle owner or repair technician access to the status of various vehicle subsystems. Challenges in implementing the BS6 norms. Increased cost. For following the norms will add down the cost of the cars, which will reduce the demand and exacerbating the lower growth of automobile industry. High investment to produce the BS6 norms compliant fuels. The refineries need to upgrade their technology with high investments. Future disruption. The next round of revision is due in 2023, and this might provide a new small window for the producers to produce BS6 compliant vehicles and might be bring a disruption after the revision. not the best standards. It can be observed that although the country is looking to meet the best European standards, Europe stands at the third best standard across the globe. China has gone ahead of Europe by combating the key parameters from the UK and Korea to frame its own regulations. Way forward. Strong compliance system. The government should introduce a strong system of compliance, penalty, emissions warranty, and recall program. Emissions warranty and extended emissions warranty to cover the in-service life of vehicles is an important step. Amend central motor vehicles, etc., to enable implementation of security sensing monitoring for on-road surveillance as well as more effective integration of OBD. The state should define and issue the checklist for inspection of emissions control systems in the vehicles and prevent tampering. Awareness. The local body should fasten up the enthusiasm in the city for BS 6, also to inform and influence the next round of revision of regulations of BS 6 in 2023. The stronger real world emissions and in service compliance requirements for vehicle sold. Other than that, in this light, we have completed Supreme Court relaxes BS 4 deadline, and India has switched to BS 6 without following BS 4 norms. So this was about that, and next we'll discuss the pet coke.